Hi, I am Jennie Walters. This is my husband, Francis. We call him Frank. Who are we? Show ya. Have Grandma and Grandpa Manwaring, Great-Grandma and Grandpa Bates, Great-Great-Grandma and Grandpa Walters, Great-Great-Great-Grandma and Grandpa Walters. That's us right there. That's us, Francis and Jennie Walters. We lived in Rexburg. We had 7 kids. Had to think about that. These are our kids. There's Glenn, Dorothy, Donetta, Adrian, Jesse, Ross, and Leroy. We call him Roy. Here's us with our kids. So there's all of our kids. And here's me. And there's Frank right there. That's us and our family. Our oldest, second oldest boy is named Jesse. And he played football. He was a football player. He's pretty handsome, isn't he? He married a girl named Thelma. So this is our son, Jesse. This is his wife, Thelma. And they had a little girl named Mary. And Mary came and lived with us because it was the Depression and it was hard to find a job. And so her parents sent her to live with us. This is our granddaughter, Mary. We were happy to have her. And Mary was pretty young when she came and lived with us, and sometimes I would kind of sit down with her and color with a few little crayons. That's all we had. And we would color the Friend magazine. That's the Friend magazine a long time ago. That's what we would color in. And one day, I sat down with Mary, and we got a newspaper out of Los Angeles. It was an old one, and it was an Easter newspaper. And in there was a picture of this man. Do you know who that is? And Mary was looking at that newspaper and looking at that picture, and she said, I want to know that man. And I said, that is Jesus. That's Jesus. That's who you learn about in church. And she said, I don't know why, but I want to know him. She was just a little kid. She was just a little kid when she said that. But she wanted to know Jesus. We didn't have a car. We didn't own a car. Didn't have one. And Mary's parents didn't have a car. So every now and then, we'd put Mary in with the mailman, get in the car, and she could go see her parents. They didn't live very far, just in town, and we lived outside of Rexburg, kind of. And she could go see her parents and then come back with the mailman again. How'd you like to ride with the mailman? Yeah. My husband, Frank, used to work for the railroad. He was an engineer. He drove trains. He got to drive trains. And we lived in Pocatello, and I didn't like living in Pocatello. We lived right on the train tracks. I didn't really like it. And so I had him quit. We went back to Rexburg, and he got a job in potatoes. And you go and you sort potatoes. There's a bad potato, pick it out. There's a bad potato, pick it out. All day long. That's what we did. We did potatoes, and we had potatoes every night for dinner. Do you like potatoes? They're pretty good. We had a lot of potatoes. But I was a potato sorter. And one day I brought home a can of tomatoes. It took the whole day's wages to buy it. It was 15 cents. That's the whole day's wages. Can of tomatoes, so we had some tomatoes for dinner one night. It was just kind of nice. We loved those tomatoes. He was a good man. He was really good with kids. He'd go down and kind of start getting a fire early in the morning. And then he'd just kind of pull up a chair and sit there in the chair. And Mary figured out she could come down and she could sit on his lap. He'd be getting warm, and she could sit on his lap, and then she could get warm. And they loved doing that. That was what they did quite a bit. He'd help her to get warm, and he'd just hold her. He was very good with children. We lived in a little house for 7 kids. It wasn't real big. There was no bathroom in the whole house. No bathroom. You had to go outside. Not at all. Get rid of that. Don't have that. We had a good wood-burning stove. And we had our beds kind of all meshed in together. And at night, we didn't have any lights, any electricity in the house. We didn't have any lights. So we had one lantern, and so we all go upstairs at the same time. So get the lantern. Frank, it's time for bed. Let's get the kids. We've only got one light. We don't have electricity. So everybody goes upstairs at the same time, so nobody can go up in the dark. We all go upstairs. We have kind of a, Dorothy was just our youngest, and she was just 5 years older than Mary. So they were kind of good friends, and Mary liked her, and we usually called Mary Marie, or little sister, or little Mary, and she liked living with us, and we put those girls to bed in a straw tick. What's a straw tick? It means you have straw, and you make a mattress with that straw, and then you sleep on it. Well, those poor girls had a straw tick. And we had a bed for Ross and Adrian, the 2 little boys, and Glenn slept on a cot by the door. And then Frank and I had a bed. We fit in the house. Barely. It wasn't a big house, but we fit. We liked living there. And when it was time to do the laundry, we had a big pot on the stove, and you put some wood in the stove, and you start a fire. And then I would send Mary and Dorothy to go get the water. And since Dorothy was older, she had a bucket, and Mary, we gave her a little honey bucket. We got some honey in there, and so she carried that. Whoops, stand up, Mary. And the girls carried that water outside. You gotta get the water outside, and then bring it back in. Psh, psh. And we gotta heat up the water, and heat it up, and then we take it down, and we go psh, in the wash tub. And then we can wash our clothes. Wash, 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 wash. Wash, 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 wash. And I would do the laundry, and I gave Mary the job of polishing the stove. And so she would get some Bon-Ami cleaner and go polish, 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 polish till that stove shone so pretty. And she would wipe off the chairs too, where the men would come in and the boys, and they'd get their muddy feet all over the bottom of the chairs, and so she would polish off the chairs, clean off the chair legs, make them look nice. There, now they're nice and clean. We didn't have a nice house, but we had a clean one. We had a good clean one. And when it was time for bath, we didn't have a bathtub, so we'd use the wash tub and put Dorothy and Mary in there together. They'd be the first ones to have a bath. Okay, girls, get cleaned up. Okay. And then as soon as they're done, okay, go upstairs and go to bed. And then the next person would have a bath. All right, hurry and have a bath. And then the next person would have a bath. And then the next person, and the next person. And then we're all done with baths. 1 bath a week is what we do. And we're all done for the next week. We're all set. We had a pretty good life out there in Rexburg. And we always had prayer on our food. We never had family prayer. We just didn't do that. But we always had a prayer and a blessing on the food. And we were so thankful for our family and for our children.